You know that feeling when you're truly alone out in the wild? That deep, profound quiet? It can be really peaceful, but sometimes that silence breaks. Today, we're going to dive into 3 chilling, true stories about what happens in that exact moment.
So, what do you think is the most terrifying part of being completely isolated? It might not be the darkness or the strange sounds the forest makes. Nope, it might just be that one single moment when you realize you aren't actually alone at all.
All right, let's get into our first case. It starts in a place that should feel totally safe, right? The huge, familiar woods right behind a guy's parents' house, a place he's known his entire life.
So he gets his camp set up, he's got a fire going, everything's perfect. Exactly the peaceful night he was looking for. But right as dusk starts to settle in, that peace is just shattered. He hears a man's voice, just muttering, but he can't see anyone. And it goes on for 5 straight minutes. When he finally works up the nerve to call out, "Hello," the voice just stops. Dead silence. His gut is screaming at him, so he quickly packs everything up and finds a new spot, way deeper in the trees.
So he settles into his new campsite, all hidden away. A few hours pass. The fire's starting to die down, and he's finally beginning to relax again. And that's when he hears it. The crunch of leaves. A man just steps out of the complete darkness, walks right over to his fire, and sits down like he was invited.
The camper, you can imagine, is completely floored. He's trying to make sense of it, so he says, I think you're at the wrong campsite. And the stranger's response is just one chilling word, no. No explanation, nothing, just no. The tension in that moment must have been absolutely off the charts.
Okay, so trying to break this unbelievably weird silence, the camper asks if this was the guy he heard talking earlier, and this is where things take a really dark turn. The man's face goes completely blank. His voice turns cold, totally monotone, and he just says, "Must have been someone else." Any hint of friendliness is just gone.
And then the true horror of the situation slams into him. A stick cracks in the darkness behind him, but from a totally different direction. His heart just plummets. The man at the fire isn't alone. He has a partner hiding out there in the woods. He's outnumbered. And in that split second, he just bolts, sprinting blindly into the forest for his life.
All right, let's move to our second story. And if you thought that was isolated, just you wait. This one takes place in a retired 1950s fire lookout tower, miles and miles from any road, any town, anything. I mean, this is the very definition of being off the grid. So picture this place, okay? It's basically a tiny, rundown cabin sitting on stilts on top of a mountain. But here's the kicker, it has windows on every single wall, and the door has no lock. You are completely exposed. You're in a glass box in the middle of nowhere. So the first night, a strange guy just appears out of nowhere asking to stay. The next morning, our narrator finds this super creepy passive-aggressive note left for him. And then, on the second night, he looks down and sees the same man standing perfectly still at the bottom of the tower stairs, just staring up at him. That's when he knows this isn't random. He has to get out, which leads to this terrifying 5-hour hike through the pitch-black forest to escape. And when you really break it down, the red flags were practically screaming. I mean, this guy shows up miles from civilization with 0 gear. He didn't even seem surprised to find someone there. He came back in the dead of night just to leave that bizarre note. And the most chilling part, he knew the narrator's plans, that he had booked the tower for 3 nights. This wasn't a chance encounter, this was planned.
For our final story, we're moving from the quiet forest to the desolate, wide-open space of the Alaska Highway. Now, this is a road so remote that gas stations are literally hundreds of miles apart. If something goes wrong out here, you are completely on your own. Help is not coming.
So our narrator is on this epic road trip, and he pulls into a campsite for the night. The next morning, he's exploring, and he finds another campsite nearby that's been completely trashed, tents ripped, gear thrown everywhere, like someone left in an absolute panic. He's totally shaken, heads back to his car, and finds a black pickup truck with tinted windows suddenly parked right next to him. His gut just screams at him to leave, so he does. And he tries to rationalize it, you know? The truck is probably just a coincidence. But then, hours later, hundreds of miles away at some remote gas station, the same black truck pulls up right next to him again. He gets back on the road, finds a really hidden spot to camp for the night, thinking, okay, I finally lost them. But he hasn't. They followed him. In the middle of the night, he's jolted awake by footsteps.
He looks up and there's a man's face, pale and distorted, pressed right against his driver's side window. As he scrambles away, smash! A second man shatters the back window. An arm snakes through the broken glass, trying to get the lock. It's absolute chaos. He's fumbling for his keys, hands shaking, and finally gets the engine to turn over just as he hears the click of the back door unlocking. He doesn't think, he just floors it, peeling out as the door swings open behind him, escaping into that huge, dark nothing.
Okay, so after hearing those three absolutely terrifying accounts, what's the common thread here? What are the real lessons we can pull from these harrowing experiences?
Well, these stories are some powerful reminders. First, that feeling of safety, even in a place you know well, can be a deadly illusion. Second, you have to notice the pattern. The attackers in every story tested the waters first. The weird muttering, the creepy note, the silent truck, these were probes, looking for weakness. But the most important lesson here, the one thing that saved every single one of these people is this. Their gut instinct was screaming at them long before things got violent. That internal alarm was their first and their best defense.
And that brings us to the final question, one I really want you to think about. We all have that internal alarm system, that primal feeling when something is just deeply wrong. So when your instincts scream, do you try to rationalize it away, or do you listen?